Okay, I just had a power outage while I was trying to record, but it was only like 2 minutes you guys missed out on, but let's hope we don't power out again. Basically, I'm saying I think I've figured out what I want to try next to fix our overriding grounded flag issue. And I think what I want to do is to give us a table called ground. And then when we detect a bottom collision, we want to populate our ground table with the collidable. The collidable, like the platform that we're standing on. So I'm gonna see if that. So like with this is setting the ground table equal to a table with one value that is the collidable parameter, or I guess it would be the argument that gets passed in. But we need to flush this table on 2 occasions. One of which being if we jump. Right here. If we jump, then we need to flush our ground table. And also, if we are I want to say if we walk off the platform, so if we're check grounded as false, then we need to flush that table. For right now, I'm going to turn that off because I'm just trying to check whether or not I'm trying to think if this check grounded can even take in this ground table. Maybe I'll leave this off for now, and I just want to print out what the ground table is. Yeah. To string our ground table. Will that work? Let's give it a shot. Okay, yeah, we messed this up. Look at that. It's kind of interesting. The ground table is giving us a hexadecimal number somewhere in our heap or stack or something. So why is there a table colon? Why is there a table colon when I try to print that? Uh, table value. So yeah, it's almost like the table value converted to a string is just its location in memory. Um, because if we convert our ground table value into a string, I actually just want to see if this puts the table colon, because I think it does. Yeah. So it is getting flushed upon jumping and it's getting allocated upon landing. So it's like, kind of working. It's just that we don't want to know the address in memory. We want to know the value. But I guess the value is a platform object. So it doesn't know how to print out, like it doesn't know what to print out. It just knows it's an object with a bunch of stuff. It's got a x, a width, a y, a height. So maybe we need to say something like, maybe we need to give in our bottom collides, maybe we need to set our collidable. See, okay, let me see if, so our collidable is just something that has an x, a y, a width, and a height, but we're only checking the bottom collides on platforms. So if our platforms had a member called a name, maybe we should say, hey, give us a name, then an x, a width, though, because we need to be able to, at least for right now, I just want to be able to print out. I think that problem with getting all of it's printing out the location in memory because it doesn't know what value to print out in the table, because the table is a object, or it's a class instantiation of a platform. So what I'm thinking of, instead of saying print ground dot name, and then since that'll be a string, it'll be a string instead of an address in memory. So if we say our own name gets the name parameter, then under our here, we would say, hey, this platform also needs a name, and its name is platform what? Platform 1. And then our ground platform needs the same. Then I'm curious if we can, in our bottom collides, here we allocate ground, or we allocate whatever we collided with to be the only platform object in our ground table, and then we're going to set our ground.name to be equal to our, shoot, okay, hold on, I'm not sure if I can do that, but we want to say our collidable name, you know what, yeah, maybe here we just say, hey, instead of putting the whole class or the whole instantiation of the object, I guess I would just call it object. Instead of putting the object into our ground table, only put our object's name member into the ground table. Let's see if that fixes our hexadecimal problem. No. Well, hold on, let me see, because in our right here, we need to print our ground. See, I don't think I can do that. We don't want to do, yeah, like we want to print out the collidable name, but there's no, maybe, shoot. Can I do that? Nil. Nil. But if I just put name, if I just put ground, it'll give me hexadecimal. But the ground gets set. Maybe if I convert it, shoot, I don't know. I don't know why it's still printing out a hexadecimal. I want it to print out the string. So like, I guess what I'm trying to see is if we can just print out that name, which it shouldn't be nil. It's right here, ground platform. I don't see why that's messing up. Um, I guess it doesn't make sense to me. Because in our platform, the first parameter is name, and we're assigning it to a field called .name in relation to itself. So we should be able to call platform.name to get the name. No? Okay. I don't know why it's nil. I don't know why it's nil. Maybe we can, like, I don't get why it's nil, because we're defining this platform object in this play state. What do you call it? Play state logic. I don't know. Why is it nil? For some reason, ground platform.name is nil, which means it's not assigned. So like, what if for shits and giggles I literally just say ground platform.name gets a string name? Then it shouldn't be nil, it should be this name string. Okay, so that works. But why does putting... Oh, you know what? Maybe it's just because I'm using itself as a parameter there. So maybe ground platform.name, now that. Let's see if that works. And I'll turn that off. So it's not nil, it's nil. Shit. Oh, ground platform name. Wait. Ground platform name. Okay. It's a nil value. Fuck you. So here, I'm saying the first argument is a parameter called name. I'm setting a string version of that name to be associated with the name member in our platform class. Then I am initializing a ground platform using said class, passing in ground platform name. Okay. So yeah, basically this is like I want to say that this argument gets converted into a string. Huh. So no, yeah, maybe there is a problem here, because it's like it doesn't know what platform name is. Maybe if I just put so instead of using, because if I just use something like this platform one name, as far as the compiler or the scripting, you know, as far as lib2d is concerned, it's like I don't know what platform one name is, because anything that's a variable needs to be either, you know, declared or defined. So maybe we need to just, instead of trying to do a variable, we just do a string. We just pass in a string called platform1 name and a string called ground platform name, and then that string doesn't need to be converted to string because it is a string. And then it'll be assigned to our name member. Then we should be able to say ground platform dot name, which is a string. So we shouldn't even need to say that. let's see if that is not nil. Hey. So my problem is, one, it's not getting flushed, and two, it's assigned right from the get-go ground platform name instead of only on. Oh, well, no, yeah, that would make sense. Okay, so I guess it's incorrect, but it makes sense that that's incorrect because I'm saying print out ground platform's name, and ground platform's name is ground platform name. So it's just printing it out no matter what. But we want to do some logic saying like, or how do we do this? It's almost like, see, it's like we don't want to print out the name. We just want to populate our table with a string of our name upon a bottom collision. So our, where is our table? We've got a ground table. So we need to say, instead of printing up, instead of printing up ground platform name, we want to print up ground converted to a string. Ground should be a string though. It should only be one string at any given time. So under our bottom collision, we need to, we're setting our ground to our collidable dot name, which our collidable dot name is the string that gets passed in as the first parameter of our platform. We're setting our ground table equal to that name, which is a string. And then we're flushing it at least upon jumping. We're flushing it upon jumping. So I guess let's see if I can print up that table just yet. And you know what? Maybe the move is saying, hey, print out table, print out the first value. Tempted to concatenate a nil value. Great. So yeah, so it's like, because what's happening is, since I spawn in the air, ground doesn't have a first value. But I can give it a 0 value. And then flush it back to 0. Not flush it to empty, but flush it to 0. Then I would need to convert it to a string. But gosh, it's so easy to get lost in code. Okay. I'm looking for, when we initialize our ground, we're going to initialize it to 0 so that we have a 1 index in our ground table. But then under our bottom collision, we're going to say our first index gets overwritten with our collidable name. Then we're going to flush our ground table with nothing but 0. And then we need to convert what we're printing to a string. And maybe it's printing its location. For some reason, this doesn't print the string that is at our ground table at index 1. It prints a location in memory. Maybe we don't need a table. Yeah, maybe we don't need a table. Because a table is just multiple values, right? But we only need, we just need a variable that says either because right now it's like we don't need to print the name as far as the game's concerned, but I'm trying to print the name to debug and make sure it's detecting the right platform. So for right now, maybe we nix our table. Instead, give us a variable called ground. We're setting it equal to a string, an empty string. Can you do that? Why not? That here we're not doing our table at index, we're just assigning the string to ground. And then when we flush it, instead of flushing it, yeah, we just want to say, okay, we're back to an empty string. So will it let me print out an empty string? It should be a string, so we shouldn't need to convert it. And then we just need to print out the ground string, which is a variable now, not a table. Attempt to concatenate global ground, a table value. I guess because we're in our bottom collides, setting it to this is a table value for some reason, not just a string. Why? Convert the already string to a string. Oh, you know what? I put it in a table there. So I just should do that. That's it. Look, it flushes upon jump, and it fills with whatever we collide upon. Let's see if this is platform 1. Yep, sweet. Okay. So now that we got that working, we need to say, you know, now we need to do our logic, which instead of cycling through every platform, we just need to ask if if we set our grounded to true upon a bottom collision right here. Ground is already populated with the standing ground platform. So let me think this through, because I'm saying right now, if we're not check grounded with whatever's in ground, then we're not grounded. So if we are grounded, nothing will change here. But if we're not grounded, how do we do this? Let's just say we're in the air. If we're in the air, we will be not grounded. So self-grounded gets false, which is, it'll be overriding our already false, but we need that because if we're walking on a platform 1 and walk off, this will not execute until check grounded's false. Then once check grounded's false, we will be no longer grounded. So let's see if that does anything. Ostrich on field Y. What? This is, this is wrong. So the problem here is this is not a collidable, which check grounded is looking for. This needs to be the corresponding platform object of whatever our ground string is equal to. So maybe we, instead of saying ground, how do we do it? Upon bottom collision, we say collidable name. Okay. Because that's incorrect to put in the variable. But we need to check. The whole reason of printing out those names is to differentiate what platform we're on. So how do we use that? Like I want to say that this is, this is the platform of which our object, this is just fucking fake code, but it's like object dot name. It's like whatever our object dot name is, whatever that. Okay, had another power outage, but we're back online. I'm getting real tired, so it's probably not going to be much longer, but I think we're going about it the wrong way with that text bit, because although the text bit helps us print out the values, what we're ultimately trying to do isn't print out the values. So we might be able to get away with, remember how it was printing out the address locations. That may be okay, because Lua can use those address locations as different data. So um, so we might be able to get it working without figuring out that you know, memory address problem. So right here we want to do, I feel like we want to do something like if fuck, I thought I had an idea for this and then I'm just blanking it now. Like I wanted to test equality of some sort to be like it doesn't really help us. Because, like, if we're saying if something is equal to whatever the value or whatever the shoot. Because the thing is, it's almost like we need to put so I guess my problem comes from not fully understanding what exactly a table is in Lua. Because I hear that everything in Lua is a table, but I know that tables can have either it can be treated as a sort of index and value, or it can be like a key and a value. So it's like it doesn't just have to be related to index number, it can be also a key value pair. But the problem is like we only want to run check grounded on whatever our current ground platform is. And then we want to see if we're still grounded, you know. So how do we see if how do we only check grounded on the ground that we're on? So it comes down to the implementation of how ground is getting populated, which at the moment we're populating it with the collidable name, which helped us to print out the name, but the name ultimately doesn't need to get or shouldn't be stored in there. It should be the collidable itself getting stored into ground. I'm pretty sure. So I'm curious. Where do we have ground, first of all? Where do we here, ground is just a string. So like how do we say ground is a platform type? A platform class. Like does that mean that now ground is a platform class? And then if we assign a collidable to our ground, it would give it all of its things. Platform, I guess it comes down to see, so I kind of feel like it might need to be curly or parentheses instead of curly braces. But I really don't know. I know in platform we have the class getting a bracket here, which is kind of why I thought to do brackets. I guess let's just try it. Like, so if ground is now a platform object, or class, whatever you want to call it, then we can assign collidable into our ground, and then we would need to flush this as soon as check grounded is false. We would need to flush it. Ground gets just a platform class, an empty platform class. Can I do that? So right here, when we collide with the bottom, we're trying to assign this collidable platform object into our ground, our empty ground platform object. And if that works, then ground will get populated with all of the values that it just collided with. And then we're going to say, basically, if we're not check grounded with whatever we just collided with, then we're not grounded, and our ground is empty. However, if we are, so once we become grounded, hopefully our ground variable gets populated with the collidable, the platform it just landed on, all of those values. And if that's true, then check grounded will remain true until we're not check grounded anymore, like we walk off. And then once we walk off, we're setting our grounded to false. Then we're flushing that table. Does that make sense? So we won't be able to print that stuff, but we might be able to see its effects. Ostrich 32. See, so even though it says, let me try to do the an empty platform there. And then, because even though the debugging info said it messes up at 32, I think it's really messing up right here, because once ground gets passed in as an argument, it then fails right here because it was never a platform class, which is why I'm hoping changing it to the parentheses might fix that. But then we also need to say on our jump, we also need to say ground gets an empty platform. And then also on, oh my god, here. Instead of that being curly braces. See if that does anything. Shoot, man. Shoot. I guess I'm curious. See, so that's what I'm talking about, where it said 32 was messing up. Said we're messing up at line 32, but that's just when we're declaring this function. It's just the first line of code that the parameter needs to be working in order for the rest of the logic to be working. So it says we're trying to do arithmetic on field y, which is a nil value. So it's saying that whatever is getting passed into check grounded is a nil value, meaning it is not a collidable platform. What is a collidable platform? It's just a object that has an x, a y, a width and a height, and a name now. So I'm not sure we can do, is it called inheritance, where you take all the things from a class? I don't know. But this is what's messing up. Because ground. Okay, so maybe it's not that what's getting passed into the bottom collides function that's messing up. No, I guess it is, because it's kind of, no, because this isn't the code getting called every frame. It's just the prototype or the definition of this function. So how do we inherit where is it? Right here. How do we inherit all of those things? Like, how do we say the collidable? And that's the other problem, is like, until we bottom collide, ground is gonna be empty. So maybe we put some bogus parameters, or we put some bogus arguments into our initialization of our ground, and then once the collidable is detected, that's when it's assigning it into ground, because we start by falling. So this ground is not getting populated with anything, any collidable object data, which is why it's failing on the first frame, because when that was on, when this line is on, ground has no usable values. So when it goes to evaluate this function, it runs into nil. So does that mean in our main here we say and it's like we need an x, y, and width and a height, but we don't want any. It's like all these dummy numbers I'm putting in here is just so that ground isn't empty, ground isn't nil when we're trying to do that evaluation. Let me see, is that still turned on? I want to see if this line is turned on, which I didn't save that, so maybe it wasn't. Shoot, man, shoot. Well, now this is different, right? Like we want to, oh my God, we want to say the same thing where it's like, wipe this. And then same with jumping. Come on, man. Where we're getting string x, a y, a width, and a height. And then okay, so now if we walk off, let's hope we fall. It worked, but for some reason we turned upon landing, which is not the behavior I was expecting. Let's see if we go right. That's so sick. It worked. So why did we turn? Why did we turn upon falling? It didn't turn upon falling that time. I mean, the only thing different was we kind of did that buffer collision bit, right? Where like that. See? Why did that turn us? It must have turned us because our dx is positive. So let me just, okay, so I don't like that we have to initialize those as junk values. But I mean, you know, that's the first time that's worked, where we can have the ostrich walk off and then fall. That's really cool. But let me see. I'm pretty sure that the reason our dx became positive was because of our faulty switching logic. Remember we said we were going to try to implement the timer, the side collision timer, so that you can't collide more than once in 1 second. But since we are colliding more than once, it's swapping our dx every frame. It's detecting that collision, which is not wanted. And that's the reason why we initially set our x position to be flush with whatever you collided with, and then set our dx to be opposite. But once we made that buffer, the buffer from the platforms, so that you fall off with your feet with only 1 foot. God, it's so hard to explain this shit. But yeah, it's the buffer that's screwing us up, because we had to make the buffer smaller so that the ostrich would fall when both feet were off the platform. Since its feet were tinier than the rectangle, we needed to give the platform a little bit of a smaller platform. That's what I've been calling the buffer, those 7 pixels of smaller on each side, so that the ostrich can fall. But the problem is, when the ostrich falls, it then detects a right collision, which then, since you know, depending on which direction it's facing, it would swap. Actually, not depending on the direction it's facing, but depending on its current x velocity. So if it's left velocity, if it's going left, which is negative, as soon as it detects that collision, it'll get swapped to right, but then it detects the collision again because we're still colliding on the right side there. Then it swaps it. And then we just happened to swap it where it ends on a positive dx, which was why we turned right upon landing, but not every time. Remember, we walked off once and it was fine. It was only when I jumped and then did the busted right collision that it was swapping its dx incorrectly. So either we get rid of the buffer on the side collision and have the teleport again, which wasn't as game accurate, or we go ahead and implement something like that timer, the just side collided timer, because the amount of time we're collided with a platform, actually, shoot. Okay, so I mean, there's a problem with that. If we do the timer bit, yeah, it would fix the problem we just tried, where falling switches our dx when we don't want it to. But if we were to be, like, let's say the platform's here, but the real platform's in here because of the buffer, and our character's right here, right about neck deep, and if we just keep flapping with very little or no dx, it would be detecting that collision. I mean, even if we get the timer working, if we keep flapping and that right collision is still detected, then it'll be swapping the dx when we don't want it to be. So the timer isn't a good fix, because the amount of time you can have a right collision is greater than just a fifth of a second, which it is if you play nicely and just let it fall. But if you float or flap, you know, then the timer can kind of get screwed up. So I guess for right now, the way to do it is to go back to where we're shifting our X position, which makes it a little less fluid. But it would fix that problem. So it's under our side collisions right here, right collides. So we want to say if our ostrich right collides with a collidable, then we want to set our ostrich's X to be our collidable's X shifted by our width. So that sets our X to be flush with the left side of our platform. And then if we collide on the left, we want our ostrich's X to be assigned the collidable's X plus collidable's width. And then we shouldn't get that multiple okay, so okay, so yeah, we did, that was it, where we collided, and you saw how it shifted its position, shifted its X. Well, I missed it, but shit. See, that wasn't quite right. God, it's so hard to test this. See, that looks okay, but it's when we had a double collision, no? Which should be impossible because our dx. Yeah, how is that possible that we collide twice? Because our dx is negative. We're colliding, so we're setting our x. Setting our x to be flush with that left side of the platform. Why is it so hard to get right? Okay. God, it's so hard. Because it's like we want to trigger a side detection, not a bottom detection, which means we have a 7-pixel gap to land in, which is why it's hard to test. Like that. Why does that happen? Why would that happen? We're and see, that's where, see how bad that looks? It detects the right collision, so it like instantly teleports it to the left. I don't get why it would be doing the two collision bits. God, it's so hard to land in that 7-pixel buffer. See, why did it switch our DX there? It detected a right collision, so it swapped our DX. That's correct. I mean, it's incorrect, but that's exactly what I told it to do. So if there's a right collision, oh my God. So the thing is, I had it. It's the buffer that's making this problem, because before you could only have a right collision when you're going right. But it messes up when we're having a right collision going left, and that's only possible because we did our buffer. But so we just need to say, like, hey, if we're going right and we right collide, swap your DX. If we right collide and we're going left or facing left, then DX. Actually, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't detect a collision, because it's not really a collision when you think about it. Just because they touch doesn't mean we need the bounce. Or like the collision is exactly that, a collision where we're going one direction and then reversing it. But if we're going this way and then a right collision is detected, we don't want to do anything, actually. We don't want to trigger a collide. So we need to say, I think we need another one here where we say, only do this right collision if we're facing right. And then same with this. Only do this logic if we're facing left. Otherwise, if we're facing right and the left collides, then we want to not fuck with our dx. Yeah. Maybe. If self dot, if not self dot facing right. I don't have facing left because it's just a boolean. Sorry, that's confusing. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Mother, missed it by a pixel. Okay. So right collide when facing right is working. Ah, that was so close. Then we need to see if right collide when facing right is working. Shoot. 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 God, why is it so tough? Oh, give me a break. Oh, actually, if it's working right, it shouldn't do anything there. Oh, yeah, did you see it move behind it? The platform was in front of it, so that looks like it worked. It didn't do anything. You know, that's what we told it. If we're facing the same direction, don't do anything. Yeah. Okay. So I guess my last qualm. Oh, that was cool. I don't think that was game accurate, but that was cool. See, like that. Like, should that have been a right collision? Okay, so that's a problem. If we're skidding off of a platform, our dx goes to 0, which I don't think is game accurate. See, like, I guess that makes sense that that was a left collision. It just feels like it almost should have been. I'm curious in the original if I skid off the platform, what happens? Oh God, oh God, oh God. Okay. Okay, and huh. So yeah, oh God. It looks like it all it does is turn our direction. Get the out of here. Looks like it just turns our direction and stops us being grounded. Yeah. It just turns our direction and yeah. Okay, so instead of losing all dx, we want to keep our dx and flip our direction, which I think since we're holding left, since the last input held would be left in that scenario, or whatever it is, I think that would actually be fine. So we just have to figure out why our dx is going to 0 upon skidding off of a platform, which I don't even know. I don't know why that would be happening. Yeah, why does our dx go to 0 upon a skid? I guess in our ostrich, let's see if shoot, man, shoot. What's so hard about okay, well, it looks like we only set our dx to 0 in 2 scenarios, and that is holding down left when our last input was left. I don't get why that's the case. Why did I do that? Like, I remember that the last input was to get the proper direction when multiple left or right is held. So if left was, so like in this scenario, if right is held and then left is pressed. Shoot, I don't know. My note, my comment says stops when facing right. Which means okay. So what this is saying is if left is the only input, stop? No. I don't know. I came up with this and I don't know. Holy crap. Oh my god. Okay. So this is only happening when we are moving right and we're under the skid threshold. Then if left is held and the last input is left, stop us because we're under the skid threshold. So I think, yeah, because we don't want to skid. So the problem is when we're skidding off a platform, left is held and our dx is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, which at some point becomes smaller than the skid threshold, which by the time we skid off the platform, our dx has gotten smaller because we're skidding. Our dx gets lower and lower, at which point our dx gets set to 0 because left is down and our last input was left. So we only need to be getting our dx to 0 if we're not skidding. Is that right? Because if we are skidding, we don't. No. That might screw us up. Let me see if that screws up skidding. It doesn't look like that's screwed up. So let me see if skidding off a platform works. Shoot, I gotta do it going to the right because that's the only one I did the code for. It didn't stop DX right away. So that almost fixed it. It's just it's also grounded, right? This is already in grounded. So how was that even? Actually, let me see something. I think this is all only when we're grounded anyway. And once we skid off, we're not grounded. Okay. So yeah, maybe that didn't fix it even a little bit, but that's the only time we're setting our DX to 0, no? Because this whole loop is in if grounded. Oh, well, you know what? It happens so fast. Like, I am grounded, and then I have left held, and then at some point, check grounded gets false, at which point, God, it's so hard to think about this. So even though, I guess my question is, if I turn this off, does it still stop me getting off the platform? Or does it not? Uh-oh. Okay. It does. So something's happening. Huh. Would it be in the... Oh, God. Would it be in the aerial controls? I'm not changing DX anywhere. So why would I be stopping? Oh, God. The good news is like we fixed, or you know, we fixed what we set out to fix, which is great news. Although I'm not too happy with the implementation. It's just a pure kind of like taste thing. I don't think it really screws anything up. And by that I mean the where we do the ground right here, where we give this just a bunch of garbage values so that it can calculate. Instead of being nil. But I don't get why our dx is going to 0 when left is held and we're moving right and we're not grounded. So yeah, let's see. Dx is 0 when, and you know what, maybe this isn't the right way to do it because there's another way dx can be 0 and it's in and not. Okay, so let me just see all our dx. How many of these? There's 49 dx's. Okay, what do we do? What do we do? Start at the top. Okay, would this be giving us a dx of 0? No. This is just swapping it. That's a comment. This is a condition. This is a comment. So this wouldn't be getting our dx to 0. That's a condition. It's a condition. This is setting our dx to 0. Let's just turn that off for now. That is a condition that wouldn't be turning it to 0. Well, current dx minus 0. Yeah, it could be. Yeah. Yeah, that would be turning dx to 0 eventually, but it wouldn't be doing it right away. It like that's wait, no, it won't. It won't because it's moving left. That's just increasing our dx more to the negative direction. That's a condition. Let's comment this out for now. It's a condition here. Okay. This is only if A was pressed though, so that wouldn't be our problem. This is just a condition that won't make it 0. If self dx is greater than 0 and we're skidding, then give our dx less and less. I want to say that this also needs to be if grounded, because we don't want to skid to a stop if we're in the air. But does that mean, yeah, maybe we say also and not self grounded, or no, and self grounded, because we only want to skid to a stop when we're grounded. If we're in the air, we do not want to skid to a stop. Let me turn back. No, let me just see if that does anything. Like I'm pretty sure skidding is messed up right now because I turned off the dx 0. But maybe the skid to a stop off a platform works. At least that was cute. He like tucked in his feet and then he landed and skid. Let me see. I'm gonna turn those back on, I guess. It still stopped. It still stopped, right? You saw it stop. It went dx 0. Like, oh, come on. Oh, my left input wasn't working there. It just, oh my god. Fuck. where here. Let me turn this back on. Let me turn this back on. Let me see if that same issue. Just for shits and giggles, I want to see. Guess that answers our questions. I don't know why we're going to, I don't know why our dx gets 0. I don't know why our dx is getting 0 there. Let me try to let go of left before because if you just tap, it skids to a stop and stays the same direction. So what if I just tap it and let go by the time I fall off? That's not what I wanted to do. Okay. Still dx 0, right? I'm gonna watch dx and see if it gets set to 0 like instantly. No, it skids. It's following the same. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. Because we don't end up flush with the platform. We go a little bit of distance. So it's, well, that one, because I was skidding so slow. Okay. Yeah. So dx is getting decremented to 0 upon the skid, which is what I tell it to do. I just need to say only do that decrement when we're grounded. Which is what I just tried, right? Because this is that that's what I just did, wasn't it? I said only do our dx if our dx is greater than 0 and we're skidding and we're not grounded. No, hold on. So this is saying, hey, if we're moving to the right and we're not skidding, give us our updated x position based on our velocity. Otherwise, if we're moving right and we are skidding, slow us down to a 0. So once we're running off the platform, we press left and initiate skid. Therefore, our dx is greater than 0 and self-skidding. That's why it's going to 0. But we need to also say, like, hey, if our dx is greater than 0 and we're self-skidding and we're grounded, which is what I had, and it messed up so bad, and we're grounded, then do that. So maybe I have to do another one saying, like, if our dx is greater than 0 and we're skidding and not grounded, then we just want to we just want our self x to get our current x plus our velocity. This needs to be here. What? Expected symbol near and 433. Oh. Oh. Okay, another problem. I mean, two problems that I saw. That got our dx to not stop, but it drew the standing ostrich frame at the airborne ostrich dimensions, which cut off its legs. And then upon landing and no input, so hard to create that. Oh no, that's all wrong. Look, I'm holding. So that almost fixed it, but it didn't. I'm just gonna see if we're in a well, we fixed one thing and broke three things. So that's gonna just have to be next episode, I guess. Actually, we got that right. We did that we did that part. We were stuck on that for a good while. But we need to fix dx upon skidding off a platform, which was not as easy as I thought it would be to fix just then. Because it made a skid upon landing, it drew the wrong sprite in the air, and then it messed up our input handling when we're grounded. So that's kind of a nightmare, but good news is we got collision detection, and we're not cycling through the check grounded for all platforms. We're only cycling through the platform that we're on. Then we're flushing that table whenever we leave that platform, and populating that platform whenever we land on a platform. So that's a success. Big success, I think. That was a tough. I still don't know what to do if not that dummy values on our platform class, but it's working. So I'm gonna get commit with a message saying fixed falling off platforms. Or I should say like falling off platforms is working correctly, but skid off platform is busted. I don't know. Git push. Okay. Well, we tried, success. And we had 3 power outages today. So I'm gonna have to stitch these videos together at least. I didn't keep the first one because it was only 2 minutes, but then I'll stitch together the other one. But yeah, cool. Good progress. I'll see you guys tomorrow.